Well, I'm sitting here with David Robertson, and we are kind of launching Christians Engaging Culture for the new year. And our first podcast episode is about how we can invite people to church.
Yeah.
We've got the privilege of having David come to St. Thomas's on the 22nd of March. And so I thought I'd sit down with David and just talk a bit about inviting friends along or family along to church, why we should do it and how we should go about doing it. So why don't we start with the why? What would you say is the biblical motivation for inviting people along to church, David?
Okay. I would rephrase the question a little bit, and I'd say this: what do we want? Do we want people to come and join our organization? Do we want them to fill the pew? Do we want them all that kind of? The answer is no. We don't. We want people to come to know Jesus Christ because we love them, and it's not about us putting forward our point of view or philosophy. It's not about trying to get people to join us or be like us. It's about getting people to know Jesus. Now, most Christians would go, yeah, well, of course. So why bother inviting to church? I think the answer is this. There's a couple of scriptures I would think particularly. One is where Jesus says, where two or three are in the midst, I'm there. So where are you going to experience Jesus? Amongst his people. You should, And I would back that up with 1 Corinthians, where Paul says, when the unbeliever comes in amongst you, he'll say, truly God is amongst you.
He expects unbelievers to be in the congregation.
Well, he expects them to be there, but also he expects them to sense something. So, for example, you and I, Gerard, we both like arguing with people and, deconstructing the worldview and so on. When I do that in a cafe and elsewhere, I want to be able to say to them, do you know this? I've removed some of your defeater beliefs, but if you go along to this church or that church on this particular Sunday, you'll meet Jesus. And that's, I think, we're inviting people to church so that they can meet Jesus. I mean, it's interesting. I wrote a book called Awakening, and I remember when it came out, it was just a bizarre experience in the local secular bookshop in Dundee, Scotland, where I'm from, that they advertised a book signing and a book launch, the secular, and my kids, one of my daughters took this poster because it was so funny. And the book was about Robert Murray M'Cheyne. It was called Awakening. So I was expecting this poster to say, Robert Murray M'Cheyne, Awakening, and then a little bit underneath about meet the author. And instead, the poster was, come on this day and meet David Robertson, the author. And that was all in big, bold, massive type. And then underneath was author of Awakening, M'Cheyne. And you know what struck me about that was, I thought, that's really what we're doing in church. We're saying, come and meet the author. Not come and hear the book, but come and meet the author. And so why we invite people to church is because we want them to meet the Lord of the church. We want them to meet Jesus.
Yep.
So that would be my primary argument. And in a church like St. Thomas's, I never say to people just generally go to church. I will name particular ones because there are churches I think, I'm not sure they will meet Jesus there. But in a church like St. Thomas's, I would say, I feel very confident about inviting anyone here. Because with all its faults and ups and downs, and St. Thomas's is not perfect either, Christ is proclaimed, and Christ is believed on, Christ is worshipped, and they will meet Christ's people. And because of that, they'll meet Christ.
Yeah. Now, often we get a bit scared of inviting friends to church. I was wondering, we'll get into how to overcome this soon, but just on a pragmatic level, do you know of any statistics or things like that have found out how likely someone is to accept an invitation to church? Because in our minds, we sometimes build it up to be like only 5% of people would accept an invitation to church. Do you know any of these kinds of statistics? Yeah,
I am, first of all, going to put this thing off so you don't hear anything.
Good idea.
Secondly, I'm going to say this, that 80% of statistics are just made up. So no, don't go by statistics because it just varies so much. So instead of this, I like my stories, so let me tell you a wee story. I was minister of a church in the Highlands of Scotland, a young man, 24 years old, called Brora Free Church. And there were about 40 people going to it. and a fisherman's wife was converted, and she and her husband were coming along. And I did an invitation week. So 40 or 50 people were coming by then. And what I did was, we didn't have a guest preacher, but I said, each of you take 6 cards, pray for 6 people, and invite 6 people. So come the Sunday, I went in, and there was Maggie, amazingly, half an hour early, sitting up in her pew in the balcony. And I said, Maggie, what are you doing here so early? This is the fisherman's wife who'd been converted. She said, I got to come early to get my seat, because this place is going to be packed. And it was a building that held 450 or so.
But everyone was inviting 6 people.
And, yeah, exactly. So she was thinking, 50 times 6, it's going to be pretty well, And I thought, God bless you, Maggie, because of your zeal and your faith and everything. Now, here's the thing. Very few of the normal congregation actually invited people. Maggie invited 6 people, and all of them came. All of them came. Why? She was a young Christian. She thought, it worked for me. Why wouldn't it work for other people? She thought, why wouldn't people want to come?
Yeah.
Whereas the others had become cynical and thought, well, they won't come, and they won't do this. They won't. We don't know. That's what I'm trying to say. You could invite 20 people and none of them could come. It doesn't matter. You could invite 20 people and all of them could come. And I would suggest that it's not just, we're not Jehovah's Witnesses. It's not a numbers game. It's not ticking the box. It's not someone saying, Gerard, I invited 35 people. Do I get the prize? No, it's about praying for people. It's about deciding when it's appropriate. But I think one of the things I would urge people not to do is predetermine how they're going to react. Don't think, if I invite them, they'll definitely come. Yeah. Because they might not. Don't think, I can't invite them because they would never come.
Yeah, of course.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So that's one of the exciting things about it.
And one thing I've heard is that a successful invitation isn't an invitation that's been accepted. Yeah. It's an invitation that's being issued.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably do it a bit further than that. I would say you could, for example, you could invite somebody and no way are they coming. And 10 years down the road, they could think, one day I was actually invited to, or maybe I will go to a church. But, I mean, sometimes you'll get people who say, yes, I'll come, and they don't. That happens quite a lot, and that disheartens people. My view would be, what did, that Andrew brought people to Jesus. And I think you bring people. And when I say by invite, so I would say, why don't you come with me to church on Sunday? Not, here's a general invitation, come along.
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about that. Yeah. What is a good way to, so you've been praying for a person.
Yeah.
Praying that God would give you an opportunity, praying that they would be interested in coming.
Yeah.
When you then get to the point of asking them, how do you go about it? Like you say, come with me.
Yeah.
How would you ask a friend to come along to church on Sunday?
It depends who the friend is, because I don't think we have. I hate methodologies, and I hate. You do this, and this. You do A, you do B, you do C, and then D will happen. That's not how humanity is. That's not how it works. So it does depend. So I remember one of my friends one time, I said to him, well, we're having a guest service on Sunday, but I don't think you should come. He went, what? I said, no, I'm not going to invite you because I don't think you'd like it, and I don't think it's suitable for you. And he's kind of like,
reverse psychology.
Well, it was, because I knew he would take the bait. He just said, why wouldn't you invite me? I said, no, I don't think so. I don't think I'll invite you. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, you don't play. I just knew him really well.
But for ordinary people, what you said before is really helpful, saying, would you like to come to church with me? And so it's not just an invitation, here, there's a church service on. It's, please come along with me. I'm your friend.
So there are numerous scenarios. So let's say you're at work and a friend's talking to you, and I haven't brought this up before, but suddenly they bring up, just seeing what happened in that church, it seems really horrible. And you go, yeah, it probably is, but there are churches where there's some really good stuff happening. I actually go to one. Would you like to come along with me? Or sometimes you might use the particular the particular topic that's been spoken on. So on the 22nd, I'm going to look at Romans 8, which includes, amongst other things, creation and the renewal of creation and, death and lots of different things. But its great theme is hope. And so you're talking to somebody saying, life's pretty hopeless. You say, well, actually, there's a guy in our church on Sunday who's going to be talking about that. Do you want to come along?
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Perfect segue.
Yeah. Or you may find that there are people who you've connected with for a while, they've been a bit curious, and you've always wanted to invite them, but you weren't very sure what they particularly say. Well, this is a particular opportunity to invite them to come along. So I would do that. I do think that there are people who you're going to look at and you're going to say, and you're going to know that it just would not be appropriate. You pray for wisdom. Now, that sounds a little bit of a contradiction in the sense of saying don't judge how people are going to respond. But I would say err on the optimistic, but there are some things you know that it's not wise, that it's a red rag to a bull. And you just say, I'm not going there at this particular point. And it's also where and when that you do it. I think that is also very important.
Yeah, so give some tips on that, like there'll be some inappropriate times to ask people.
Well,
there'll be some more appropriate times.
Yeah,
how would you do it?
You're sitting in your office, you don't suddenly, or you're a student, you don't suddenly blur out in class, hey, why don't all of you come to church on Sunday?
Yeah.
Because we've got this, So that's not it. I would say private invites are generally better than, general public announcements.
Yeah.
I think personal are better, and that's why offering, why don't you come with me is more important than why don't you come to our church? Well, why would I want to come to your church? But to come with me and see what it's like, you're very, very welcome if you want to come.
And might you then say, why don't we catch up beforehand? Or...
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the other key thing is I don't think I would ever invite somebody, unless it was a spontaneous thing, and even then, I think I would still say an arrow prayer without praying for them. I think it's really important not to target people and not to give people the sense that they're being targeted. I'm out to get you. You don't want to become the person in your work or in your family who, when people see you, think, oh, please let them cross the road. Because I know they're just going to ask me to church, and I know they're just going to do this. I mean, I had a relative like that, and I used to pretend to be asleep because I knew they were just going to ask me to give my life to Jesus or something. So I think there's a tactfulness. I think there has to be a certain degree of humility. I think it has to be a genuine asking. If it sounds like a demand. And also, can I say this? If it sounds like witnessing, the way I think about it is this. The Jehovah's Witnesses really annoy me. Even the ones that are standing, they don't do door knocking anymore. They just stand at the railway station. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I think if people have a sense you genuinely care for them, and you do genuinely care for them, then you will ask in a way that is tactful and appropriate and meaningful. I think if you regard them as a formula, if you're doing it as I'm going to tick my box, to say I've invited somebody, I think that comes across really badly.
So let's say you're out at lunch with a work colleague, you've gone to a park, you're sitting down eating your lunch, and they haven't said, life feels so hopeless sometimes, but you think this is someone who you'd actually like to invite to church. You are going to have to initiate the invitation. What would you say to...
Two things I would do. If you're a member of St. Thomas's, and you know about this, there are two things I'd do. On the Sunday before, people will have an opportunity to have a leaflet or an invite card. I would always have one with me. And I would say, I wouldn't force the conversation, but you're always ready to give a reason for the hope that you have. I would quite happily just say to someone, look, if you're not doing anything this Sunday and you are interested in finding out more, we're having this on Sundays. And I think I would be inclined to say to people, look, we're not out, it's not like you have to come and join, just come and see. And I think, what's the psalm? Taste and see that God is good. Come and see, come and find out. I think in our culture, a lot of people have opinions about Christianity that are ill-informed. And with some people, I would be a little bit more aggressive in the sense of saying, look, you're always moaning about Christianity, but you know nothing about it. Why don't you come and find out?
Yeah.
No strings attached, not asked to join. You won't be asked to do anything that, just come and observe. And I think actually that come and observe for a lot of people, yeah, I'm curious.
Come and check it out.
Check it out. So, we're
look at what we do at church.
Yeah, we're not going to spring upon you and, hey, let's give a group hug and, hey, let's welcome John, who's here with,
That's only every second week. It's
yeah. And a lot of people have no idea about what church is like. And I think to pique their curiosity is a bit. The other thing is, I would hope that a lot of people would have led such lives that people say, I want to see what you're about. And this is, there are people who are very special to you, very important to you, really good friends. You say, look, you're my really good friend, and I love you a bit, so we're good mates or whatever. I'd love you to find out this about me. And I would sometimes say to someone, this, you're really into AFL. I will come to an AFL game if you come to church.
True trade.
Yeah. There's
different ways.
There are so many different ways. You're asking how long's a piece of string. So I remember meeting a guy once, and he was drunk, and he was a young lad, and he said, "Oh, my football team is going to beat your football team easy." And I knew his team were doing so badly, and mine were doing so well, and I knew they wouldn't. And I wouldn't recommend this, but I remember saying to him, "I'll bet you they don't." And he said, "Well, what do you bet?" And he said, I can't remember, he said something like, a can of beer or a box of chocolates or something. I said, all right, fair enough. He says, what? I said, he said, what if I lose? And I said, you come to church on Sunday. And he looked at me and he said, all right, deal. Well, my team won 3-0. And I remember meeting him the next Monday and saying, you really disappointed me. And he said, what? I said, I said, I thought you were a man of your word. I said, I know you drink a lot. But I said, disappointed. He said, he was so indignant. He said, David, I was there on Sunday. I said, what do you mean you were there? He said, well, I was a bit scared to go in, so I sat outside the door in the stairway. But he said, I heard every word that you said, and right enough, he spoke to me about the sermon and everything.
Oh, wow.
So, there are all...
The betting invitation to church.
Well, and there are always exceptions. I would say always do it with gentleness and respect.
Yeah.
But I do remember a colleague was visiting a man who was suffering from what we call the DTs. He was withdrawal symptoms from alcohol. And his family had called the minister in because they were so desperate. And this guy said, I'm not interested in Christianity. I have no time for you. I've just, and swearing at him and everything. And this minister, he just got up and he said, all right, fair enough. He said, I'm gone, I'm not coming back. But he said, you will be in my church, but it'll be in a coffin, and I'll be commiserating with your friends and family. Bye. He was in church the next Sunday and he was converted.
Wow.
So I'm not saying...
Yeah.
So that's why if you methodologize things like that, you end up just daft. But I'm saying, biblically, you do it with gentleness and respect. It's people who you already know. Having said that, I would also want to encourage people to invite almost people who are strangers a little bit, because you know even less about them, and you just look for the opportunity. You're on a train and someone's talking to you, and for some reason they're asking about a book you're reading. You say, "Oh, I'm Christian." "Oh, I've never been to a Christian church." "Well, as it happens, I've got this. Would you like to come along?"
With you.
Yeah. So I would pray each morning, Lord, lead me to somebody.
Yeah. It loves to answer.
It could be the barista.
Yeah.
It could be, the refugee staying down the road from you. And they could be delighted to get an invite.
Exactly.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So there are people who you're close to, people whom you love, and there are other people, because you have a general love, if you like, for humanity, that you can do that. And I would suggest in those circumstances, you do it very casually, so it is a take it or leave it thing. But it's good if you've got something to leave with them.
Yeah.
Because they may go, nah, not really. And then they might wake up on Sunday morning, reach in their pocket and go, do you know this? I think I will go.
Or you can send them an invitation through Facebook or an event invitation.
Well, we are going to do a Facebook invite. I think the Facebook invites are brilliant, and I'll tell you why. Because people know that you're not picking on them. That most people, when they do a Facebook invite, will invite 40 or 50, depends how many friends you've got, Yeah. You go through and you invite loads of people. I actually think that's a wonderful thing to do. Now, I don't think it's as good as directly a personal invite or bringing people along, but as a kind of publicity thing, I think it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah.
Because again, you just pray, Lord, I've just invited these 50 people. I have no idea if any of them are interested, but use it.
Yeah. And it could be a good precursor. Like you might send out the invitation Monday morning to 40, 50 people and see someone on Wednesday and say,
did you get my invite?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
give them the invitation card then.
I mean, the only thing I would say with Facebook would be, I would say don't bombard people with stuff. So that's the kind of thing you do once in a while, because people go, okay, this must be, I don't often get this from, Gerard or whatever. And that's what I found. I mean, I had a lot of Facebook friends who were like part of a chess club that I belonged to. And I would go through and think, this, I'm going to invite them, I'm going to invite them, I'm not going to invite them, I'm going to invite them. And sometimes I'm not even sure why I did that. But there are some people I just felt, this will just antagonize them, I'm not going to do that. In fact, I knew it would antagonize them.
Yeah.
And there were other people I weren't sure. And then there were other people, to be honest, I was teasing a wee bit. Like there's one taxi driver who said he would never ever come. And I said, I'm sorry. Every time we have a special church event, you're getting an invite. And until you defriend me, that's happening. But he and I got on well.
Good banter.
Yeah.
Then, is there anything you'd recommend? Say you invite someone, they say yes. What do you do when the person comes along to church? How can you make the experience of church to be as...
First of all, you say, I'll meet you at the door.
Yeah.
Especially if they've not been before. Say, look, I'm quite happy to meet you at the door. Or if you want, I'll pick you up. If you're bringing them in my car and they want to... But I'll meet you at the door. And you sit with them. And St. Thomas's is not, high liturgy, and it's not totally weird. I mean, if someone's never been in church before, there are some things that will be different, but they will actually expect that. So I wouldn't be too bothered about that. I think it's more... The way I describe it is this. It may be that there are people listening to this who are Christians who've never ever been to a pokey or a betting shop. Imagine going into a betting shop and you've been asked to place a bet.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't know what to do. Do I turn right? Do I turn left? What do I do here? What do I do there? And it's actually quite nerve-wracking. Someone who's never been to church comes in. Where do I sit? Is there reserved seats? Is there, what do I do? So
some might even wonder, what do I wear before they come?
Yeah. So just come with me. Pretty well in St. Thomas's you can wear anything. You can come in a three-piece suit or you come in shorts and a t-shirt. It's not the major issue. But these are the kind of concerns that people will have. I do think meeting people and going in with them, at least offer to do that.
Yes.
And I also think at the end, we have tea and coffee here. Going with people down for that, and maybe as well. Sometimes your friends with you in the pew, you would afterwards, you just say, "What do you think of that?"
Yeah,
that's all. They may not want to talk about it. They may want to talk about it.
Yeah.
You leave it. I would say, whatever you do not go like heavy-handed. So, are you ready to give your life to Jesus? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a specific revelation not to do that, which I doubt. But
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's.
You want to
trust that God will work.
An open-ended question.
Yes.
What did you think of that? As a great one.
Trust that God will work. You neither you nor I are going to convert anybody. We're not. It's the Holy Spirit who does that.
Amen.
Rejoice that your friend has come. I would also say, if people don't come, don't give up on them. Keep praying. Occasionally still invite. That's... And again, their fear is going to be, you're trying to get me into church. And almost everyone will have that. And even us saying, no, we're not, it's a bit like us saying, I'm not going to hate you. It's going, there's a weird guy, this. So, we've got to understand that when we're inviting people to church, people are often hearing something very, very different. So for me, I would always give a fairly low-key invitation with a lot of backup. Backup in terms of prayer, backup in terms of saying, I'll meet you, or you can, and give people leeway, give them the opportunity to refuse without them thinking,
it'll break the friendship.
I'm going to break the friendship.
Yeah.
Although, having said that, again, I know somebody, my daughters getting married, and the guy she's getting married to, he became a Christian when he was invited along to a church. I think he decided to come, and then I think my son said, would you like to meet for a Bible study? And he thought, I better. He didn't really want to, but he thought it was polite to do it, you know. So sometimes people will come because, I don't want to offend them. So who knows?
And then after the service, you say, what did you think of that? Then I suppose go down to morning tea or whatever you do afterwards, introduce them around to some friends.
Yeah.
Then one good thing to do is if you have invited people but no one's come with you, to be there to help welcome other people who have come.
Yeah. And I think also this, remember, there'll be a mum there really upset that her son hasn't come. She thought he was going to come, he said he was going to come, and he didn't. And she'll be really disappointed. And there'll be others like that. And I think this is where you balance it, because them refusing to come to church is not them refusing to come to Christ. It's them maybe inadvertently not knowing that they're refusing the opportunity to hear about Christ. And I would always say to people, just keep going, keep praying. I think a lot of invitation, though, has to do with confidence. And the way I'd put it is this. I can think of, we like going to Crow's Nest to eat. I'll not name them on this podcast, but there's a couple of restaurants there or whatever. I would, no qualms at all. I'd say, come and have a meal with us here, because we know what it's like, we really enjoy it, and we know they would enjoy it. And that kind of invitation is issued with confidence. Might be we're going to try somewhere new and we don't know. It'll be a bit more, come with us, and we don't know what it'll be like, but we'll see. I think that there is an invitation to the church here, is how I put it. Come with us and we will do you good. Come and see this. Come. This is something good. Yeah. We've got to get over this idea we're inviting people to endure some kind of torture or to go through an unpleasant experience in order to enter the kingdom of heaven. We're actually saying, this is great.
Yeah.
It's often why your best evangelists are people who have just become Christians. Because come meet a man who told me everything I ever did. Yeah.
That's great. What about follow-up? So you've asked someone along, they've come to church, they hung around for a little bit, went home. What about afterwards, the next day, the next week, the next month? How do you follow someone up?
Well, again, it depends who they are. I would say, do you want to meet for a coffee sometime this week? And, we'll talk about, if you want, what happened in church. You can let us know. You don't want to talk about it, that's fine. I would say, would you be interested in finding out more? There are things at the church that we can easily do. You can go to a Christianity Explored thing or something along those lines. Personally, I always like to have a book that I can give to people. Again, depending on who they are. So,
actually, at the back of our church, we've got a whole stack of books called 321 by Glenn Scrivener.
Yeah.
And if you're a church member and you're giving that to a friend so that they can understand the gospel, it's really good gospel explanation in it.
Yeah.
You can actually take that for free for your friend.
Yeah.
There's some little blue counters behind the kind of where it's standing up, the book stand.
Yeah.
You just put that in the payment box.
Yeah.
And that will count as your payment, and the people in accounts will know to take it from the evangelism budget and give it to the bookstore budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So if you want to use that,
the Glenn Scrivener one is excellent. I would also say the previous pastor of this congregation, Simon Manchester, had some very good tracts and things that are good to give to people who maybe don't do a lot of reading.
They're still there as well.
I thought I saw them.
Bottom left of the book case of the bookstore, you can get those out.
So those are really, really good. I always like to have a book about Jesus, and I couldn't really find one, so I wrote one called Magnificent Obsession, and I always keep a copy of that to give to people.
I think there's one of those in the bookstore, but there might only be one.
You think? Yeah. We've ordered, I don't know if Here's ordered more, but I know that various bookshops have got some, and but I mean, I'm not saying it has to be that, but I'm saying it's good to have a book about Jesus.
I should get a couple more of those in, because if people hear you, they might want to read a bit more.
I think, there's just things like that. I mean, I'm not interested in the book sales. I'm interested in the fact that I want someone to read about Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wrote that particularly for postmodern under 40-year-olds, which is basically now, but it's postmodern under 60-year-olds. I also think that it's just simply to say, would you like to come back next Sunday? Because what we will be doing on the 22nd is not much different from what we would do every other time.
Yeah.
And I think to say to people, you're welcome to come back. Now, what I would do with that is I would make that even more low-key than the initial invite and say, feel free to come back anytime and let me know if you want to come.
Yeah.
And you know where it is now.
And hopefully
make your own
such a great
time.
experience. That first time that they think, I want to come back.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, did you have any particular, if somebody, say you invited a friend along and they said, do you know this, when that guy said this, I was really annoyed about that. I would invite the congregation and say, well, if you've got people who are like that, invite them to contact me. Or you do it for them, pass on their questions or their comments. Yeah. So I do think...
we flee at gmail.com.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that it's just about loving people and being friends with them. And, don't ram stuff down their throats. Don't, pounce on them. Again, the absolute is you continue to pray for them. Sometimes you'll pray and you think, do you know this? I'm going to say nothing. And I remember one situation where somebody said, I couldn't get over the fact that you said nothing. I kept waiting for you to say something and you didn't. And eventually I had to come and ask you. And I said, well, I'm not sure why I did that. It's not because I didn't care, but sometimes you'll find that people are quite affected by what's happened and are really scared. And the last thing they want is you to push them. And others times you'll find that people got loads of questions. I found quite a lot that people who are new to church, one of the things they would say, that's not what I expected at all. And then that opens up a whole avenue of conversation as well.
Saying what do you mean?
Yeah. So
that's great. Really good advice. Are there any last tips that you would offer for inviting, bringing?
No.
Obviously, prayers surrounding it all.
Well, I do. I think you preach the gospel to yourself before you preach it to others. I think also to remember that this is a whole church activity. You might think, I'm not an evangelist. Well, maybe you're not. But you are a Christian. I'm talking here to Christians, obviously. You are a Christian, and why not? I wouldn't go to a church I couldn't invite people to. So I would have confidence that the Lord knows what He's doing. I would have confidence in the church here to that degree. I think for me the biggest thing is the most dangerous thing that anyone can do, and that is ask God to give you a heart for the lost. That will overwhelm you. But I'll tell you what, it will make you care, it will make you pray, and you will never, ever need to talk about motivation because you'll have it. Yeah. And I think that's what we ask for. I don't want to manipulate or guilt people into inviting people. I'm saying let's invite people because Jesus is great. Let's invite people because they need Christ. Amen. Let's invite people because we are starving beggars who found the greatest feast, and we want others to share in that. And for me, if that's your motivation, you won't go wrong.
I think that's a great note to end on. Yeah. Thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate it. And we'll be praying for the congregation, and we'll be praying for you as we head into this invitation week.
Great. Look forward to it.